So I live in Houston, and there's a huge Desi Muslim community. But the area that I grew up in, Katy, the area I went to school, there was no Muslims, no Pakistanis. Literally in high school, it was just me and my siblings that were the only Pakistanis, and maybe two other people. So growing up, I want to say my family did a big effort in hosting events like Dalwats or going to friends' house and just surrounding ourselves with as many Pakistanis and like-minded people as we could, and just so we can stay close to our culture. So I want to say growing up, it was a lot of people coming over, going over to other people. My grandparents live with me, so they forced us talking in Urdu. So there was a lot of at school go talking English, come back only speaking Urdu. But yeah, a lot of family, a lot of friends growing up.
Yeah.
It was almost like you said, like living a double life. It was a different character. Like the character I was outside of the house wasn't the same character that I was in the house. So just adapting to the people around me, and almost whenever, let's say I did have somebody that was a Pakistani at school, it almost felt weird that, oh, I can talk to this person in Urdu outside of home. Like it felt weird
Yeah.
because you're raised in this environment that's totally different from what you're used to at home. So it definitely felt weird, but growing up, it wasn't as available. But now, fast forward till today, there's a lot more Desi people around me. There's a lot more Muslims around me. And I feel like that's more comes from the flexibility of me. The older I can drive, go hang out with the people I desire to, versus as a kid, you can only go a certain distance where you're able to go to. Like growing up, I want to say like I didn't show that part as much outside the house. It was not that I was embarrassed, but I was a very much of an introvert person. So I felt very shy. Like if God forbid I went to Walmart with shalwar kameez on, I would feel so like, oh, I don't want to be seen in shalwar kameez. So it was
Yeah.
almost like I wanted to hide that side, but now I've embraced it, and now I can walk around openly with a thobe or shalwar kameez anywhere. So I want to say as a kid, definitely kind of kept it limited, but now I've embraced it 100%. So it's funny, you know how Desi parents always tell you, if you act up or get bad grades, we're gonna send you to Pakistan. So that actually happened with me, and that happened with all my siblings, and it wasn't bad grades or anything like that, or we weren't acting up. But it was mainly my parents felt like we didn't know enough about our culture, didn't know enough about our religion, and that was purely because, like I mentioned, the area that we grew up in, there wasn't that many Desis around us. The schools that I went to, there wasn't many Desis and Muslims. So my dad decided to send us to Pakistan, and the day we went the day our flight it was the day of my fifth grade graduation.
Oh,
I was really bummed out. I was on the way to the airport and I'm
wow.
passing by my elementary. Everyone's going with their parents to their fifth grade graduation. I'm like, man, I'm missing out on this. And initially we thought we were going to Pakistan for a wedding. So we get there, me and my siblings, we all think we're going for a wedding. And a week passes, 2 weeks pass. And the next thing you know, my uncles and khalus, they're helping us like learn math and different sciences. And I'm like, why am I learning here? And they're like, oh, we're getting you ready for your admission test for school. And I was like, what?
Wow.
And they're like, yeah, you're gonna go to school here. So it was a complete shock, and the lifestyle there is completely different from the lifestyle here. So
Yeah.
initial thoughts was, well, why am I here? It's so hot. Why isn't there AC? It is because we're used to a certain lifestyle here that's not available there, and so it was a complete shock at first. Did not want to be there. I didn't know how long I was going to be there. But fast forward, I ended up being there for 3 years. I did all of middle school there, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And I want to say, alhamdulillah, I want to say it was the best experience. But I wouldn't take that back. I definitely, you know, love that my parents did that because I learned so much about my culture, learned so much about my religion, made so many friends there that I still have to this day.
Wow.
And I just went back there recently, so almost 10 years later. And I reconnected with all my friends from middle school and we hung out, got food. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. I went there when I was fifth grade, so I want to say maybe like 11, 12 when I
Oh, wow.
went, and then I came back when I was 14, 15. And honestly, I think it was the perfect time
Mhm,
because middle school, I want to say, is the time that really puts you on the right track or the wrong track in
mhm,
this generation. Middle school nowadays, that's when kids are getting old enough, they start cursing or they might get into drugs. And it really like puts you down the path that you go throughout, high school and so forth.
mhm,
So, and some schools are pretty bad. So I honestly think it was the perfect time and it brought us closer to our religion, our roots. That when we
mhm,
came back, we knew what the right track was for us. So when I got to school there, I used to get clowned. And I mean, Desi culture is normal, like you get made fun of, but it's purely like out of love. So at school, once my classmates found out I was from America, they gave me a nickname. They'll call me Inglés ka bacha, like Inglés ka
um,
bacha. So like my English was obviously very fluent, and the teachers would always have me read out loud. Like, oh, listen to his accent, try to talk like him. So I want to say that was pretty funny. Another funny memory was my sister, my younger sister specifically, she hated school there. So every morning we would have I won't say a bus, but a van that would come pick us up for school. And every morning she would get into the car, she would kick everyone. Like we had to force her into the van, and literally she was known as the kicker. Like she would kick the van driver, kick anyone that was next to her that she did not want to go to school. Every morning, it was a mission to get her on that van to get to school. And for me, it was just so embarrassing because I'm like, Zena, just get in the van, let's go to school. But every day was a mission. So that was probably the biggest struggle the first year was getting everyone, and myself included, adjusted to a new lifestyle. So that was a complete 180, and that was a struggle itself because I came back and I got used to living in Pakistan, being a Pakistani kid. So when I came back, I was a fob. Like I hadn't spoken fluent English in so long, so I developed like a little bit of a stutter.
mhm,
So relearning English was one struggle. Another struggle was now I'm in high school. I went to high school during like that swag era where people were wearing like all these loud colors,
mhm,
and I went to school and felt out of place because I'm wearing, jeans and like a polo and like some shoes that I got from Pakistan. I had no shit, nothing, like Batas literally. Um, so I felt out of place,
mhm,
and because I was such an introvert, I already felt out of place, and I would go to class, just keep to myself, get my work done and go to lunch. And I had no friends up
mhm,
until I want to say like sophomore year. So during lunch, I would go sit by myself in the corner, and I got so embarrassed at that point where I started going to the library. And I tell the story to everyone. I used to go to the library during lunch, and the librarian noticed every day I would come during lunch. She's like, "Why do you come during lunch?" And I was just telling her, "Oh, I don't really eat food at school, so I just want to come here." So she made me a librarian assistant where during lunch I would go and put the books back on the shelves, and I earned community service hours throughout my entire freshman year. I did not go to lunch until I did start making friends and then started going to lunch and sitting with them. I want to say family,
mhm,
and just the idea of valuing your family because at the end of the day, no matter what, they will love you, whether you do good or bad, whether you're successful or not successful, they will, hold you proud. Like, you're my son, you're my daughter, whatever the case may be. So I want to say in that aspect, we do great. But where we do terrible is, some of the expectations and norms that we have for ourselves. We set such high standards, and I mean, I wouldn't even say high standards, but just standards, where there are instances where parents they want their kids to earn a certain amount of money or become the typical doctor, lawyer, engineer to consider them successful. And I want to say that holds people back. That kind of takes the happiness away from others. You have people chasing other people's dreams versus themselves. And I feel like that's the barrier that we need to break because life is too short to be chasing other people's dreams, and we need to chase what makes us happy and what we want. I want to say it's a mixture of a lot of things, and especially I want to say it comes down to first generation children, like, whose parents Im- immigrated from Pakistan to the US with the, dream that they want to give their children a better life. So that pressure, like, oh, our parents sacrificed so much to come here that we need to give them back. So I want to say that pressure is, I want to say, probably the biggest aspect, and of course, because us as Pakistanis, we value family so much, we want to give back to the people that we love. So, we ourselves hold us to a high standard. Like we need to make this much money or, give this much back to our parents so that they can have the freedom that we've got to experience, but they might haven't. And I feel like we get so used to chasing a goal that once we get to that goal, there's already another goal set. So there's never an end to the cycle. It's always chasing, 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 where we need to, appreciate the moment, the present, where we've came so far and, appreciate the fruits of our labor that we've done for everything. I actually started off on TikTok, and when I used to work in my last corporate job, I started off doing like work outfit of the days. So I grew like a decent following on TikTok. Well, at that time I thought it was like a good following, and my videos were doing good. I used to met so many people through social media, and then I decided to do like I got laid off, so I had no office to go to dress up to. So I was like, okay, I need to create some new content now. That's when I switched to like doing travel content, and some of the friends that I made through there that helped me where I wanted to start my website. I didn't know how to start. I knew this one girl that has her own brand and was very successful that I met through TikTok. So I messaged her, I'm like, hey, like I see you have a website. Would you mind like helping me create mine? We hopped in a Zoom call. She guided me through all the steps. So, you know, people like that, like that's a person I never met in person, but she helped me so much.
Mhm.
Um, so like you said, social media does have a lot of positivity too, for sure. Actually, let me rewind a little. So the first thing that got me into traveling was I was just finishing up my master's degree and I wanted to take a trip. And Thailand had been on my bucket list for the longest. I always wanted to go there. And I would tell my friends, hey, let's go to Thailand. And the typical, they'd be like, yeah, yeah, let's go. Then you start talking about it and the group chat gets quiet. um, so I was like, you know what? Once I graduate and I get done with school, I'm just gonna take this trip, whether it comes with me or not. So somebody that I actually knew from social media, that I met on through social media, I messaged him and he was a big traveler. His name's Walid, one of the biggest travelers out there. And I was like, hey man, I know you've been to a bunch of places. I'm trying to go to Thailand. Have you been? And he said, oh, I'm actually going there this summer. I signed up for a group tour. You should come with. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I signed up and I got there. It ended up being like 10 guys that were from Houston. So I met them and that was my first solo trip, but I met a bunch of people from home, which was amazing. Till this day, hands down, my best trip ever. But first true solo trip was to Guatemala. I told my parents, I'm like, hey, I'm going to Guatemala. And they're like, who are you going with? And I was like, oh, by myself. They're like, what do you mean by yourself? Like, Pablo? Yeah, they didn't believe me. I'm like, no, I promise I'm going to Guatemala. Like, why are you going by yourself? And I told them nobody wants to go or nobody's available to go with me, and I don't want to hold back. Like I'm free these days. I want to take advantage of it. I want to go. And usually my parents, I'm at the age where like I kind of just book stuff and I tell them like, hey, I'm going. They're like, oh, like you can't go. I'm like, oh no, I already booked it. I'm going. I'm just letting you know. So I went, and because I'm a naturally introvert, it kind of really fits my lifestyle. Like I go do my own thing, go to restaurants, eat by myself, into movie theaters by myself, and it's fun because nobody's holding you back. You can do what you want when you want, but you also have the freedom to talk to people. And I want to say that has helped me a lot get out of my comfort zone. I can be an extrovert when I want to, So whenever I'm traveling alone, I can go up to people like, hey, like, what's the best restaurant here? In the conversation, it's really easy to do that when you're traveling because you just got other people that look like they're solo traveling and they're
Yeah.
also doing the same thing. They want to meet other people that are traveling, but they might be scared, or I might be scared. So in some
Mhm.
instances, I make the first move, they make the first move, and you meet people through that way. I met some amazing people, and there's been instances where I met a person at maybe a coffee shop and spent the rest of the day with them, like, just traveling with them and just exploring the city with them. So yeah, it's fit my lifestyle very well. Social media has made that very hard because you log on, you open your iPhone and you get on Instagram or TikTok and you see these people living such a luxury life and you're like, oh, this is a 22-year-old person younger than me has a, you know, white cabinet marble top apartment where I'm over here, living in my parents' house. So you're just setting like this unnecessary standard for yourself where everyone has their own pace and own lane. I mean, this is very cliche, but they say comparison is a thief of joy, which is very true. You compare yourself to all these people on social media where they post these things where you don't really know if they're actually happy. And social media has, I mean, like you said, there's good things and bad, and I've met some amazing people on social media. Because I travel so much,
Mhm.
I find people in different cities or countries that I actually met up with them in person. Like, hey, I see you're in New York or London. I see you
Yeah.
live there. I'm coming there. Let's connect. Let's grab some food. And I met some amazing people through it.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot of positive to it as well. The most viral, I want to say this video I went to Indonesia. It was actually when I took the group tour. I was going to this hike and I saw some local Indonesians that were singing Kush Kush Hota Hai. And I was like, no way they know this song. So I like record myself and I walk up to it and I'm singing it. And they
Yeah.
finished the lyrics and that video did like 14, 15 million views.
Yeah.
It just went insane. And then I found out through all the comments that Indonesians love Bollywood. They all watch these movies growing up, and
They
like
love
even
Bollywood.
though they don't understand it, they like know the lyrics, all the songs, and that was just something new that I learned, which was crazy. The scariest moment. So this past year, I went to Pakistan, and I always saw pictures of northern Pakistan areas and how beautiful it was, and I told myself, the next time I go to Pakistan, I'm gonna go see it.
Yeah.
So I signed up for a tour group and I went, and there are a lot of mountains. And because it's Pakistan, the roads aren't as, structured and well made. So there's no railing. So we're literally on the edge of a mountain with no railing. And then one night we were moving from one destination to another. And it was already scary because it's dark, but you're on the edge of this mountain. We had this crazy bus driver who was driving the bus like crazy. And we reached to a stopping point and everyone's like, "Oh, why did we stop?" And there's cars in front of us that are stopped as well, and they come up to us and say, "Oh, there's landsliding happening. There's rocks falling from the top." So our tour guide he gets out and he's like, "Yeah, there's like small rocks falling down. Like, but the bad case is if the rocks fall, we're probably gonna be stuck here for a day or two until somebody comes out here and cleans the road up." So the group didn't want, well, the bus driver didn't want to take that risk of being held back there because that would put us behind schedule. So he's like, "Oh, we're just gonna go." So the cars that were parked on the side, they said, "No, don't go, don't go." And he's like, "All right." He told the tour guide, he said, "Get on the bus, we're going." And he just starts speeding through the mountain, and like we can rocks falling on the roof of the bus, and
No.
everyone in that bus is either quiet screaming or just reading duas. Everyone's just reciting duas like "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar." And that
This is
was probably
how
the
that
scariest bit I was ever in. But we made it through Alhamdulillah. But yeah, that was a crazy experience. Worth it for sure. If anyone goes to Pakistan, definitely go to northern areas. It just made me more proud and appreciative of my country. That like,
Yeah.
I'm from this place. Like this is home.
Yeah.
Um, because when people think of Pakistan, they think of like, the dirty streets and things like that, but actually there's so much beauty to our country. Um, so yeah, that moment came last year. So I had graduated college, got a job, and then moved jobs around, and then I got this great job that I loved. Pay was great. Was in it for almost a year, and then the tech layoffs happened, and they got rid of my entire department. So I was let go of the company, and that's when I felt like the world just paused because I felt like I was going on such a good track where, saving this much money, I wanted to give my parents a house and do this and do that. And then once I lost the job, I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I got back into applying, and the market just sucked and was not having any luck finding jobs. And this happened in February of last year. And I tried up until June. So almost 4 or 5 months. And I was like, you know what? I always loved traveling. I had been to a couple different countries before.
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take advantage of the situation. I was pretty much depressed for a while because I was like, okay, I'm really trying to get back into this job, but
Yeah.
I'm a big believer of everything happens for a reason. Even if I don't believe it in that moment, eventually I come to the mindset.
Mhm.
So I was like, let me take advantage of the situation. When am I ever gonna be able to do this again? So I packed my bag and I told my parents I'm leaving. They're like, what do
Wow.
you mean you're leaving? And I told them, I'm gonna go travel the world. And they're like, you're crazy. Like, what do you mean you're gonna go travel the world? When are you coming back? And I said, I don't know. And they were so confused about that. And I was confused too. It was, an emotional decision where I was like, I'm just going and
Mhm.
see where life takes me.
Yeah.
So I booked a one-way ticket to Jordan, started in Jordan, and from there I kept on planning my next trip. I left for almost 6 months, traveled to 8, 9 different countries, Pakistan included. I probably stayed there for the longest. But that was the moment where I had that Ye Jawani moment where I was like really living in the present, enjoying what was around me, and finally reached happiness, I would say.
Mhm.
And I came to that realization where, life is too short to be stressing about a job, money, you'll get what's written for you eventually. So just enjoy the moment, be happy with what you have. Because if you're constantly stressing over what's next and what do you want next, you'll never be happy. When I visited these countries, I like to do everything. I'll do the tourist thing, but I'll also just walk around the streets and talk to locals. You get to hear their stories and listen about their life. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of people in this world that are less fortunate than us, and we don't get to realize that until it's in front of us. So that made me appreciate more what I had, and what I thought what I was going through was bad. It was nothing compared to what other people are going through in this world. So it used to be the bunny lifestyle where it's like, okay, I'm very OCD. I make itineraries anywhere I go. I want to hit, A, B, C, D, E. So we'll go to one place and only have 30 minutes here. Let's go to the next. And I used to be like that, but I've kind of adopted to that second style where you kind of just go with the flow. So now when I travel, I create an itinerary, of course, because I want something to go off of. But if I get somewhere and I'm really enjoying it,
Mhm.
I just decide to, go with my heart's wanting. Okay, let's just stay here, enjoy this. We can hit the next spot another day, maybe next time. It's all good. But definitely sitting there, enjoying the moment, and just kind of being present
Mhm.
makes those memories last longer. 16 countries.
So cool.
I've done one. I took a group to Indonesia for a week. So they, well, I was planning to go to Indonesia, and I let them know, like, hey, I'm doing a group trip who is interested. And I got 3 people to come. Um, Planned the entire trip and took them along with me. I'd been there before, so I just gave them a whole tour, rundown, and just took care of them while we were there.
Mm-hmm.
No, definitely having that community around you whenever you're trying to do something like social media is definitely helpful. I met some Pakistanis through social media that are also doing social media, so it's nice to have like-minded individuals that are trying to do the same thing and collab or create goals together. So Indonesia, Japan, Jordan, Malaysia, Pakistan, Philippines, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Thailand, UAE, UK, Canada, Guatemala, Mexico, and Peru. But I want to say my advice to them is if traveling is something that they want to do, is first of all, show to your parents and your family that you are capable of doing that. And what I mean by that is being mature, being responsible, being an adult. I had to show that a lot to my parents to show that I was reliable to go and for them to be able to trust me to go them like to these places and come back safely. But aside from travel, I want to say some advice to Pakistanis in general is that there is a lot of noise in our community and a lot of negative noise. And you always have other people's input, and it's really important to not let that affect. Don't let that affect what you want to do, what you want to do with your life, what makes you happy, and to just focus on yourself, cancel that noise out, hold the people that you hold dear to yourself close, and just go from there. So my company is called Travel Junkies,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually started it when I got laid off. So we talked about this earlier, where we're always trying to do so many things, and I felt like when I got laid off, nothing was going on for me. All I was doing was going to the gym. So I wanted to make my time valuable, and I was like, you know what, let me start my travel company. And I actually got some push from my friends to do it. Got a very great friend, Ahmad. Shout out to him. He kind of pushed me and he helped me come up with the name. And the idea came from it because whenever I travel with groups, I'm that friend where I'm like, hey man, we should just show up. I'll have everything planned. I'll let you know how much you got to Venmo me, but this is the plan from A to Z for day one, day two, day three. So I'm a very organized person who plans the entire trip. So I make itineraries and I actually make them in a customized website. So let's say you tell me and say, hey, like I want to go to Japan for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask you to fill out a Google form, which is on my website, traveljunkies.com, and it will ask some information about, what's your budget, where do you want to go, what's your interest, and I'll create an itinerary based off of that, and it will be in the website form. So you open the website and it'll show a pre-checklist what you need to do before you go to that country, some tips and tricks, some recommendations for accommodation that fit within your budget, and then it starts from day one. Okay, get breakfast at this spot, and everything will be linked. So we'll have, where it's located, what the budget is, and how much the food is, what type of food there is. And then let's say you get breakfast, next spot is to go to the museum. I'll put in, okay, this is a 10-minute walk, or you can take a Uber for this much. So it's very detailed how I plan it. Aside from that, I also started doing apparel just as for fun. So something like this, t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies. The goal was to get to the point where I'm doing group travels and taking people on trips. But since I came back and I started to work, it's kind of tough to do that with the work. You got to work remote. I want to plan maybe, if there's like a 3, 4 day weekend, do trips on that. So that's coming soon. But I'm doing local events in Houston where we do certain meetups. I just did a run club a month ago where I got some people together and hopefully we'll do it again. But just creating a community of like-minded people who are looking for people that are interested in traveling, that are afraid to do them themselves and want people, similar like-minded individuals. But yeah, just create that community and grow. 5 years. So I did start my own travel company and I wanted to take people on group tours. I plan itineraries as of now, but definitely start taking group tours for
Mm-hmm.
sure. That's one of the goals. Definitely I want to see more countries. I think I've visited maybe 15, 16 countries, but I'm trying to see everything. So every year try to do at least three, four, five countries, as many as I can. But 5 years from now, inshallah, I'll be married, so I have a partner to travel with.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, just continue doing what makes me happy and yeah, appreciating life.